Welcome, friends, lovers, and everyone in between, to Digital Dave. You're here to answer one question and one question only. How much damage does the Gatling Cannon do in Space Engineers 2 Light Armor? Every 50 meters, we will continue to fire until a single light armor block breaks, with 300 bolts in every magazine, aiming as center as possible directly at this red corner, testing how many bullets it took, the damage spread, and more importantly, how much damage these center 4 blocks took, and more. This will let us find out the most optimal aiming ranges and when distances start to drastically change the stats. There's only one way to find out, and that's by doing. Let's get started. At 50 meters, it took 1,290 bullets, destroying our aimed block 28% to the left, 28% to the top, and 8% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 4. At 100 meters, it took 1,620 bullets, destroying our aimed block 54% to the left, 59% to the top, and 32% in the top left, with the spread hitting the center 4. At 150 meters, it took 2,250 bullets, destroying our aimed block 72% to the left, 75% to the top, and 48% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 4. But trust me, this will change. At 200 meters, it took 2,340 bullets, destroying our aimed block 74% to the left, 71% to the top, and 57% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 4. At 250 meters, it took 2,580 bullets, destroying our aimed block 80% to the left, 77% to the top, and 62% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 4. Now, at 300 meters, there was a big jump. It took 3,500 bullets, not destroying our aimed block at 99% damage, 93% to the left, and 100% to the top, and 94% to the top left, with the spread now hitting outside its center 4, doing about 14% damage. From 300 meters and up, it has started to raise on average 4 to 6 magazines required every 50 meters, and the damage cone spreading even further to about a 3x3. At 350 meters, it took 4,520 bullets, destroying our aimed block 99.9% to the left, 96% to the top, and 93% to the top left, with the spread now hitting the center 16 blocks, spread doing an average of 33% to the right and 15% to the rest. At 400 meters, it took 5,900 bullets, 99.9% at our aimed block, destroying the left block 92% to the top and 98% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 16, spread doing an average of 40% to 30% to the rest. 450 meters, it took 7,610 bullets, 99% at our aimed block, 92% to the left, destroying the top block, and 97% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 16, and the spread doing an average of 69% nice to the 45% to the rest. At 500 meters, it took 9,220 bullets, destroying our aimed block 97% to the left, 93% to the top, and 99% to the top left, with the spread hitting the center 16, with the spread doing an average of 93% to 65% to the rest. At this distance, it appears with the rotation of the cannon barrel, this is more and more damage going to the perimeter rather than the center of our aimed point. Point being proven in this next distance. At 550 meters, it took 10,230 bullets, 91% at our aimed block, 87% to the left, 83% to the top, and 89% in the top left, with the spread hitting the center 16, with the spread actually destroying a right bottom piece and the average of a solid 80% to the rest, At 600 meters, things started to take a turn, with the damage now spreading to a near full 6x6 area, and the bullets exponentially jumping up by a full 7, almost 8 magazines. At 600 meters, it took 12,500 bullets, 92% at her aimed block, 91% to the left, 98% to the top, and 96% to the top left, with the spread hitting a maximum of all 36 blocks, a 6x6. At this point, the center blocks are no longer being primarily hit, and instead is going to the perimeter. However, these numbers start to become null and void, because the RNG of bullet spread skews any real averages of which block is destroyed. So we will focus on what we were actually aiming at, but just know that at 600 meters, you're more likely to hit and destroy things around the target instead of what you're aiming at. Let's continue. But before we do, if you want to see more Space Engineers 2 Mythbusters and testing, then please drop a like and subscribe, because we will be testing every aspect of this game, answering all of your burning desirable questions. If you have one, drop it down below in the comments. There are hundreds of things to wonder. Let's get back to it. At 650 meters, it took 14,490 bullets, 88% at her aimed block, 88% to the left, 96% to the top, and 88% to the top left. That is 48 magazines. At 700 meters, there was a huge jump. It took 18,000 bullets, 98% at our aimed block, 93% to the left, 93% to the top, and 97% to the top left. That is 60 magazines. At 750 meters, it took 20,330 bullets, destroying our aimed block, 97% to the left, 97% to the top, and 95% in the top left. That is 67 magazines. RNG came back around, hitting our target. And finally, at maximum range of 800 meters, we tested a few things. The cannon being just barely past 800 meters, it did not hit any target. Despite animations, the bullets do despawn. Moving it forward to 799.5 meters, we saw something very interesting. At first, it did do damage, but as the blocks deformed and caved in, it moved past that extra 0.5 meters into the 800 range, where the bullet stopped working. So, to give it a real test and ensure we're hitting all the blocks in the spread, we moved it forward to 795 meters. At 795 meters, it took a staggering 22,200 bullets, 87% at our aimed block, 89% to the left, 91% to the top, and 89% in the top left, destroying the left bottom piece. That is 74 magazines. Whew! What an absolute ride. So let's break down what we've learned here today. But if you want to see the footage yourself, I did stream this entire experiment. I'm going to fire this Gatling and see the spread and how the spread does. Like how, Jesus, okay, how accurate. Oh God, that's 2 magazines. How am I thinking about this? How am I thinking about this? This is driving me crazy. How am I thinking about this? We need 1 block around that all the way around. Boom, boom, boom. If you're autistic enough to watch the experiment, then please feel free to hop on over. But let's recap. 50 meters, 1,290 bullets. 100 meters, 1,620 bullets. 150 meters, 2,250 bullets. 200 meters, 2,340 bullets. 250 meters, 2,580 bullets. 300 meters, 3,500 bullets. 350 meters, 4,520 bullets. 400 meters, 5,900 bullets. 450 meters, 7,610 bullets. 500 meters, 9,220 bullets. 550 meters, 10,230 bullets. 600 meters, 12,500 bullets. 650 meters, 14,490 bullets. 700 meters, 18,000 bullets. 750 meters, 20,330 bullets. And at the maximum of 800 meters, 22,200 bullets. So what have we learned? At around 125 meters or less is your optimal damage cone towards your target. From 150 meters to 250 meters, things stayed a bit consistent of your medium range damage. But a huge jump from 250 to 300 meters is when things started to get kinda useless, averaging an increase of 4 to 6 magazines every 50 meters to destroy your aimed target. However, at 300 meters, we go from our 2x2 area to a 3x3 area of denial. Easy to remember, 300 meters is 3x3. At 600 meters, we start to see a 6x6 area of denial, perhaps prime for hitting small aircraft coming towards you, guaranteeing that at least some of the bullets will hit, even if your aim ain't what it used to be. From 650 to 700 meters, it jumped up 12 magazines of 3,600 bullets, spreading the damage rather evenly across the board. And at 800 meters, you might want to move forward a bit of around 790 meters, or else some parts of what you're aiming at won't be hit. A big shout out to my editor Micah for helping illustrate all this on screen and also dealing with me. This has been Digital Dave. Subscribe for more experiments. I'll make sure to see you guys on the testing ground. Thank you, and bye-bye.